Going to your favorite record store is a necessary ritual for sanity and keeping yourself alive in a changing city of high-rise apartment buildings and sense of gentrification. A world of digital intentions, and we the analog children seek vinyl, cassette, or 1980s CDs of quiet mastering techniques. Like David Lee Roth said, you gotta roll in with the punches and fight for what's real. Although I know what I like, and as a Led Zeppelin fan, I'm always on the hunt for the next item for my collection, I actually enjoy browsing through used random titles to find that one album that speaks through the artwork. There's music that speaks to the music within. And so I found her eyes of many emotions, yet hard to read, hiding, hoping, living. As you know, I see colors in music, and something about the warm tones of this composition made me want to check it out. To be honest, the name Kiki Dee didn't ring a bell. I had no prior reference, but I had a gut feeling that this was a great record. I played the opening track at the store, I've Got the Music in Me, and it was an open invitation. Just what I needed. Lyrics that spoke to me with passion. The thrill of discovery. A hit song indeed. I had no expectations for the rest of the album, as singer solo albums are usually a hit or miss, with much emphasis on the vocals, not so much the production, compositions, or the actual melodies. But this album did everything right. Every track a sonic treasure. I didn't buy it right away, as I had to go back home and endlessly Spotify it just to be 100% sure. This is what you learn after impulse buying, you know, just another day in the life of a record collector. Then I found out Kiki Dee was a female vocalist on Elton John's uber famous 1976 hit Don't Go Breaking My Heart. I was shocked. My god, it's her. Now, I was never a fan of this hit single, as I always thought it was a misrepresentation of Elton John's genius period up to 1975, and now I can confirm it's definitely the same scenario for her duet partner, Kiki Dee, one of the greatest singers of her generation. Several weeks later, I was 100% sure and bought a 1974 vinyl copy, along with ordering a 2008 remastered CD version. The CD is still in transit as I make this video. I know this is mostly a Led Zeppelin stories channel, but I just feel the need to celebrate another British icon. Oh yeah, and Robert Plant himself, Call Her Up. Check it out.
But an artist I really respect is Robert Plant, because he moves on all the time. I met him last year. He came to see a show I did. He's so forward thinking, and he rang up me and said, Kiki, I thought that he wanted me to support him. He was trying out some songs with a new band he's put together. But what he wanted to do was support me. And I looked at the phone and I thought,
this is Robert Plant.
Am I dreaming this? Or is Robert Plant saying, you know, can I do a support for you? And so we did this anonymous show near Birmingham in this little civic hall. And it was just such a thrill to work with someone that I really respect. He's such a great singer and such a great mind, you know. So I'm a fan of his.
Maybe you know her hit singles, maybe you know this album, maybe you don't. Let this video be a fitting retrospective of a mega talented artist who forever cemented her place in the big leagues of skill and expression. So much more than the average classic rock fan belief of the chick next to Elton John. Think again. Kiki Dee and her band recorded one of the best pop albums of 1974. They had the music within. This is the making of the Kiki Dee Band. I've Got the Music in Me. "1947 was a year of milestone musical arrivals in England. January 8th had both David Bowie and the Hollies' own Terry Sylvester, Deep Purple's Mark I Rod Evans on January 19th, the great Steve Marriott on January 30th, and the Kinks co-founder Dave Davis on February 4th. Kiki Dee was born 19 days before Elton John and just 14 before ELP's Carl Palmer. Pauline Matthews was brought into this world on March 6th in the city of Bradford, where Led Zeppelin played on January 18th, 1973. Winning a local talent show at age 10 led to her late teens singing 3 nights at the Astoria Ballroom in Leeds, the place where she was offered an audition in London. Pauline Matthews was signed to Fontana Records at age 16 in 1963. It was a promising start for a prodigious British singer, whose name was changed to Kiki Dee. Her first single went by the name of Early Night, written by one Mitch Murray, who was also responsible for How Do You Do It, a song the Beatles recorded but never released until Anthology 1. Jerry and the Pacemakers did their own version, which went straight to number 1. Kiki's early singles slowly charted their way on the radio frequencies, but one thing's for sure, her voice was a powerhouse from the start with an unmistakable sound. She was a part of the 1965 San Remo Festival in Italy, next to names like Connie Francis, Dusty Springfield, and Petula Clark. Kiki Dee made her movie debut on 1965's Dateline Diamonds, next to the Small Faces, and released her first EP, Kiki and Clover, back in March 1966. Which included the song Take a Look at Me. The song was featured in the film Doctor and Clover that same year. Also in '66, we can spot Kiki Dee at a Dusty Springfield show. That's her in the background, a vibrant music scene and birthplace for many careers. Kiki joined a 1967 recording session for Love Affair's hit single Everlasting Love. Musicians on this track included drummer Clem Catney, who was offered the spot for Led Zeppelin but was too busy to join, and soul singer Madeline Bell, who worked with Zeppelin's John Paul Jones as well. 1968 saw Kiki Dee release her first album, as well as perform at the Gala du Midem Festival in France, which ran from January 21st through the 27th. Kiki sang on the 24th, sharing the bill with Donovan, Julie Driscoll, Long John Baldry, Lulu, Procol Harum, Spooky Tooth, and the Moody Blues. The rest of the year saw her play a busy concert schedule in her home country, Germany, Japan, Singapore, France, and Sweden. Her career continued with a style that drew inevitable and unfair comparisons to Dusty Springfield. Kiki Dee's talent was undeniable. There was a special kind of authenticity in her singing, but it was hard to break through the competitive pop market with the type of material she was given. A 1970 release by Motown sublabel Tamla, Great Expectations, was a musical milestone for Kiki Dee, being the first female British singer to be signed to a soul record company. Quote Kiki Dee, "Someone's son at Tamla heard my music. I have no idea how, and my manager, Vic Billings, who also managed Dusty, got a call from Detroit. They wanted a European artist to go out there for 12 weeks to record, and I thought they must be joking. Why did they want a white girl from Bradford? But I went out there and worked with producer Frank Wilson. I was so open to it, though I came home disappointed when I never got a hit single, because I thought this was it. I was going to be a big star." Kiki's voice was as good as ever, but the production value suffered from some of the short-sighted parameters of the 60s. Yes, the very same thing Jimmy Page didn't like when recording with the Yardbirds. Quote, "You had these drummers sounding great in the studio, but later cardboards on the record." Kiki first met Elton John on the British TV show One More Time, but it wasn't until 1972 when Kiki contacted EMI's John Reid about Motown, and he suggested a meeting with Elton John, who had plans about launching his own record label. Reid was Elton's partner at the time. Kiki was signed to the record company, who went into business in 1973, and you guessed it, the name was inspired by 1972's Rocket Man. Now, strangely enough, Elton John did not record with his own label until 1976, and just for one album. He remained an MCA artist throughout the 70s. The Rocket Record Company released 5 albums in 1973. Long Dancers, If It Was So Simple, Davy Johnston's Smiling Face, Mike Silver's Troubadour, Casablanca's almost impossible to find superb debut, and career-changing Kiki Dee's Loving Free. The Rocket Record Company's attention to detail and sound engineering, they had vision. It seems like a clear extension of Elton John's exquisite solo career at the time, with 6 albums filled with tasteful arrangements. Never mind his 1973 masterpiece, Just One Spot Behind Dark Side of the Moon. Technically, Kiki's 3rd solo album, it featured a long list of contributors, including Elton John himself as producer, backing vocals, electric piano, mellotron, and piano. Drumming duties included the names of Fairport Convention's Dave Maddox and Elton's own teammates Nigel Olsson plus Dee Murray on bass. Elton John's input contributed to a fine instrumental backing and arrangements at the level of Kiki's voice, in which record buyers could enjoy the full picture. This is not just a vocalist solo album, but a sonic voyage. Loving and Free included 4 original songs by Kiki, as Elton John encouraged her to write her own material. The album also featured 2 numbers credited to Elton John and Bernie Taupin. Free's own Traveling in Style was on the record, but it was Kiki Dee's version of a French 1972 hit single, Véronique Sanson's Amoureuse, which finally broke her through the radio airwaves. Not only was her singing incredible, but the sound of the recording moved her away from her previous single ventures into a new storytelling world of her own, like Karen Carpenter was elevated through her brother's musical arrangements.
Change the night through an open door. Can my life ever be the same?
Some critics argue Kiki sounded like the British Carpenters, and while I can understand why, I believe her voice had much more depth. You can feel she's living life through every song with precious authenticity. This was Kiki Dee the artist, the album, the platform for bigger things. Now we can't ignore the fact that in the perception of your average radio listener, she was competing with the Carpenters in terms of sound, and the American duo had 5 albums by then, and many radio hit singles, which made them a household name in this style of music. Kiki's 3rd album was superb, but she had to battle her way in a tough market of the Joni Mitchells and Carole Kings, to name a few. The issue with her career was not talent, but timing. I think Elton John saw Kiki as a fitting contender to match American vocalists in their quest for album sales. Now we can't blame her pre-1973 record labels for not maximizing her potential, as expected by executives who focused on quick profits. Just ask former Yardbirds manager Simon Napier Bell, who told Peter Grant that Jimmy Page was, quote, difficult to work with because Jimmy complained about production techniques and money owed from touring. Great artists are smart, and they need the right people to really shine above music mogul ignorance. Amoureuse charted at number 38 on the UK's Top 40 chart for November 10th, 1973. Also on the chart was Bob Dylan's Knocking on Heaven's Door at number 21, Elton John's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road at number 19th, The Carpenters with Top of the World at number 7, and the number 1 spot with Gary Glitter's I Love You Love Me Love. Kiki Dee embarked on a 19-day UK tour February through March 1973, supporting Elton John. Fun fact, because this is a Led Zeppelin Stories channel, Kiki played 5 venues that Zeppelin visited on their 1972-1973 UK winter tour in the ways of Green's Playhouse Glasgow, Hard Rock Manchester, City Hall Newcastle, Liverpool's Empire, and Brighton Dome Brighton. So who were the Kiki Dee Band Mark I? Session guitarist B.J. Cole, who was a part of Elton John's first band, Bluesology, in the early 60s, and also played steel guitar on Elton's Tiny Dancer. Bassist Mike Wedgwood was a member of Curve Air in 1972 and was featured on their Phantasmagoria album. Session drummer Pete Clark, who recorded Jackie Lomax's Is This What You Want, released in 1969, with album credits Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, Nicky Hopkins, and Eric Clapton, and the record was produced by George Harrison. Also on Kiki Dee's band was keyboardist Tobias or Bias Boschel, quite the unbiased musician when it came to creativity. Born in 1950, he was a British musician who formed progressive folk band Trees. They released 2 albums via CBS. Fellow bandmate acoustic guitar player David Costa was a part of Casablanca who signed with the Rocket Record Company in 1973. It's always who you know, right? This led to Bias Boschel meeting Kiki to assist her in the songwriting process. Last we have guitarist Joe Partridge, born in 1954, who started playing London's folk club circuit at age 16 around 1970. He recorded some demos at Island Records around the time that Zeppelin recorded Stairway to Heaven, but he had no luck of his own. He found himself running errands for Apple Records. This was during John and Yoko's Bagism period, and Joe was asked to fill in for Lennon during an interview with a bag over his head.
There's a big round table, and Yoko Ono is sitting there, and there's a film crew in there. You're going to sit next to me, put the bag over your head, and you're John. Because John forgot he can't do this interview today because he's in court with Paul.
But stimulated enough to sort of bootleg it, I suppose.
But you don't mind that you're losing money yourself and your husband here too?
I'm sure we're losing money in all sorts of ways, you know.
What does your husband think about bootlegging?
Well, he prefers to be in a bag today, you know, for some reason or other.
What do you think he thinks about bootlegging?
Power to the people.
Peter Grant is manager of the Led Zeppelin. We found bootleg albums of his group easy to buy in the West End.
Joe's first big break came working on British singer Joan Armatrading's band. After some crazy touring in Europe, he was unemployed and eventually got his name in the hands of the Rocket Record Company. It probably helped Elton's guitar sidekick Davy Johnston played on Joan Armatrading's 1972 album Whatever's For Us. Elton John played a 3-month sold-out North American tour, August to October 1973, just in time for Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, released on October 5th. As expected, he returned to the UK for a 13-day tour with Kiki Dee, resuming her role as supporting act. This series included 6 shows at London Hammersmith Odeon. While Elton headed for Japan and Australia in early 1974, the Kiki Dee Band remained on British soil with a small lineup change. Bassist Mike Wedgwood left to join Caravan, and drummer Pete Clark moved on to other projects. In came bassist Phil Curtis, whose most recent band experience was Kingdom Come. Not that Kingdom Come, but Arthur Brown's Kingdom Come. Phil recorded 2 albums with them, including the futuristic sounds of Journey. Not that Journey, but Journey the album. Well-known session drummer Roger Pope was a familiar name in the Elton John universe, with recording credits for Elton's debut, Tumbleweed Connection, Madman Across the Water. Yes, he was a drummer on Tiny Dancer, John Baldry's It Ain't Easy, Al Stewart's Orange, next to Yes's own Rick Wakeman, and Philip Goodhand's Tate's Songfall, next to Yes's own Rick Wakeman. With the new Kiki Dee Band complete, they embarked on a small 13-day tour from January through February 1974, playing shows at Leeds University and London's Biba's Rainbow Restaurant. New songs were added to the set, and the Kiki Dee Band used precious downtime in March and April to polish and record tracks for Kiki's 4th solo album, led by Bias Boschel, coming up with the hit single, I've Got the Music in Me. Sessions for the album began at Marquee Studios, located at the back of the famous Marquee Club in London. Van der Graaf Generator's debut was recorded there, as well as Rory Gallagher's Blueprint, Davy Johnston's Smiling Face, and previously mentioned Joan Armatrading's Whatever's For Us. The Kiki Dee Band managed to record most of the material before going back to the road for 15 shows in May 1974. This was then followed by their first ever US tour, June through July 1974, opening for the Guess Who, the Beach Boys, and Steely Dan. The band booked additional recording time at Electric Lady Studios, New York in late July to add the finishing touches on the album. I've Got the Music in Me was released as a single on July 26, 1974, rocking both the US Billboard 100 and UK charts at the 12th and 19th positions. Say what you want about disco, the Donna Summers, Gloria Gaynors, Kiki Dee should be considered a pioneer of the genre with this song.
I'm delighted she's on my show this morning. Would you welcome back the very lovely and talented Miss Kiki Dee.
Ain't got no trouble in my life. I got the music in me. I got the music in me. I got the music in me. Got the music in me.
Now, 1974 was a triple feature for Kiki Dee as Philips International put out Patterns, a compilation of her early 60s singles, in January. EMI sublabel decided to do the same thing with a self-titled release in June, which was really her old Motown record with different packaging. Not sure why the labels, outside of making a quick profit, did it, but it may have distorted the new image and sound of Kiki Dee, the album experience. I've Got the Music in Me was released in September 1974, the same month as Tina Turner's Turns the Country On, Bonnie Raitt's Streetlights, Carole King's Wraparound Joy, Dolly Parton's Love is Like a Butterfly, and LaBelle's Nightbirds. Yes, this is the album that features Lady Marmalade, the monster hit song. Also released that month, well, Frank Zappa's Roxy and Elsewhere, of course. Album cover for I've Got the Music in Me features a close-up photograph by British photographer Mick Rock, who was the man behind Syd Barrett's The Madcap Laughs, Lou Reed's Transformer, and both Queen's second studio album and Sheer Heart Attack. Kiki was cut out from a photo session with her bandmates, with further color treatments added in post, led by art director David Arkham, responsible for every Elton John album at the time. I've Got the Music in Me sounds incredible thanks to engineer Phil Dunn, who worked on many titles including Joan Armatrading's Whatever's for Us. Last but not least, the album was produced by Gus Dudgeon, whose name will ring a bell if you're an Elton John fan. He produced the albums between 1971 and 1975. Pretty much the man was behind Elton John's finest work, with the rockstar himself, quote, leaving Dudgeon to create that unique synthesis of orchestral pop and Americana that defined these recordings. Gus Dudgeon was Elton John's main business partner in founding the Rocket Record Company. The Kiki Dee Band was back on the road this time for their biggest concert run of 42 shows across North America supporting Elton John. This was the same tour when John Lennon joined Elton on stage at Madison Square Garden for his last ever performance in front of an audience. The concert schedule saw Kiki Dee Band fly aboard Elton's Starship. The plane had been previously rented by Deep Purple in 1974 and Led Zeppelin in 1973. Led Zeppelin would rent it back in 1975, keeping Elton's paint job and design intact. Kiki Dee and her musicians were exposed to big audiences at premier music venues like the LA Forum, Seattle Center Coliseum, you name it. Every place where big names in rock and roll made it, the Kiki Dee Band was there. Now I'm going to discuss all 8 songs in the original vinyl track listing. Track 1, I've Got the Music in Me, is one of the best songs of 1974, led by a pulsating drum beat in the style of Shaft. Although it has a simple chord structure, it manages to create several crescendos within for an absolute funk and proto-disco celebration. Worth noticing are Kiki's strong vocals, fine-tuned to perfection with no double-tracking. What you hear is what you get. The song's lyrics are optimistic, the best antidepressant you'll ever find. Additional personnel here includes spectacular backing vocals by Josie Armstead, Martha Stewart, and Cissy Houston. Yep, Whitney Houston's mom. Additional organ textures were played by British session cat Mike Deacon. Track 2, Someone to Me, is a Kiki Dee original with exquisite instrumental passages by the band. From a Fender Rhodes to meticulous guitar bits, it's a well-balanced mix, reaching audiophile levels. This masterful track probably arrived a couple of years too late for radio. Track 3, Step by Step, was written by Bias Boschel, with circular movements around a colorful set of chords. Kiki pulls a catchy chorus that you'll be humming all day, and Joe Partridge on guitar works in favor of the track in true session man style. Additional musicians contributed in the ways of British drummer Barry Morgan on congas. I seriously recommend Barry's Bass Guitar and Percussion Volume 2 album from 1971. It's tight as hell. Jeff Titmus was also credited on tambourine, and you can find his name on Elton John's drummer Nigel Olsson's 1971 album. Track 4, Water, is the record's gem and a career highlight for Kiki, one of the finest songs of the decade. Written by Kiki Dee, it's an intimate quest for existential wisdom, charged with a deep sense of melancholy. Bias Boschel plays an ARP synthesizer and organ like a magician. There's some wind effect sounds in the middle that will blow your mind. The song's influence on future female singers is evident. I'm looking at you, Wise Blood and Lana Del Rey. If you want to unplug yourself from the world, go for Water, a brilliant composition where cerebral aesthetic blends with a broken heart, always willing to find hope again. Out of My Head, a soulful tune that fits just about any 70s TV show or movie soundtrack closing credits, filled with that sweet substance nostalgia. Joe Partridge plays a 12-string acoustic here next to a string arrangement by conductor John Barham. Not John Bonham, but John Barham. He did the strings for George Harrison's All Things Must Pass and John Lennon's Imagine. Do It Right is a country-inspired number that probably inspired What's Up by Four Non-Blondes. An effective melody on the chorus makes up for a timeless classic that will make your day much better. Sometimes you just want to do things right and not listen to Meatloaf's Bat Out of Hell. Little Frozen One takes the listener into a warm, safe house away from the cold temperatures of winter. A place to find yourself within thanks to the Steve Howe-inspired steel guitar sounds of B.J. Cole and a David Gilmour sounding shred from Joe Partridge. String arrangements by Del Newman take you for a journey, and Mr. Newman was no amateur, providing his talents for Cat Stevens' T for Tillerman, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, and Wings Live and Let Die, to name a few. Heart and Soul is a gospel celebration of the good times, the moments, the fine print of gratitude. While I think it's the album's less memorable tune, because it's the kind of song that is best captured live on stage, it still features Kiki giving it all with a voice so pure, you can't help to be in awe of her talent. Backing vocals here include a superb cast of Barry St. John, Irene Chanter, and Kay Gardner. Closing number, You Need Help, I believe should have been released in 1980 or 1981 because the melody predicts the pop market by 6 or 7 years. Tell me if you didn't picture Stevie Nicks singing this, but of course, only Kiki Dee can rock it like this. Where most female singer solo albums tend to lose steam halfway through, this album keeps building momentum to the very end. Written by Bias Boschel, it features an addictive keyboard sound plus double electric guitar harmonies by Joe Partridge in proto-Thin Lizzy style. Backing vocals include the same ladies from the previous number, plus Lulu's brother, Billy Laurie, Gary Osborne, who was also the one responsible for translating Kiki Dee's Amoureuse lyrics to English, and Paul Vigres. There were 5 outtakes from the album sessions that made their way onto the 2008 and 2023 CD remastered versions. Strangely enough, I found a 1974 vinyl insert that features 4 of these outtakes on the track listing, while the actual record only has 8 songs from the original release. Hard Luck Story was an Elton John and Bernie Taupin song that was heavily promoted as a single due to its pop-oriented sound and hooks. A promotional video was recorded with drummer Pete Clark instead of the main rhythm bandmate Roger Pope. The band includes BJ Cole's virtuoso steel guitar next to Joe Partridge's steady rhythm work. Bias Boswell and bassist Phil Curtis can also be seen on the video. Elton John will do his own version for his 1975 album Rock of the Westies.
Everyone should have their way. It's hard in this world.
Everyone Should Have Their Way was the B-side to Hard Luck Story, and it lives in the universe of many country-style tunes. While the playing is stellar, it sounds like a transition piece, outtake material indeed. Sorry, Kiki.
We're ready to fall. Simple little melody.
Simple Melody could have made the final cut. It's a strong piece. The acoustic layers take you into a chorus that honors the song's title and style. How Glad I Am is a definite 70s rock with sounds reminiscent of Taking Care of Business and sense of the Rolling Stones from Exile on Main Street. Backing vocals shine here, with heavy phrasing and a much more prominent instrumental mix. Kiki drives the song home. She's got the music in her. I say this should have been the B-side to Hard Luck Story, catering to rock and roll audiences checking out this amazing band.
Pick up your fruit and live on the land.
Peter is the last bonus track found on the 2023 2-CD version, featuring an acoustic opening that once again reminds me of the Rolling Stones. But Kiki Dee certainly turns it into an introspective voyage. Her voice transcends time and space. It's a marvelous track. Peter was released as the B-side for yet again How Glad I Am, which shows you how the label insisted on pushing these singles. Now maybe because I'm a Led Zeppelin fan, I can't help myself to picture her singing this to Peter Grant in 1981, trying to put his life together after losing his friend John Bonham and their musical empire. Now you may be wondering why I got the 2008 edition instead of the latest version. Well, if someone from the record label is watching, here's why. 4 remixes of I Got the Music in Me was a bit too much. While it's exciting to listen to the alternate and extended versions of the same track, it's not something you'll do more than once. I understand these may have been done for radio promotion, but I mean, adding concert recordings would have been better. But I am a record collector and maybe, just maybe, I'll get it because at least CD 1 has the original vinyl release without bonus tracks, leaving CD number 2 to enjoy the additional material, thus separating the outtakes as a companion disc. Anyway, if you don't own a copy of this album, please get it. The digital remaster is very well done and it definitely brings this 70s classic back to life.
Take back all the rain. I seem to brush against the shore while you come for wash more water. Water in the ocean. Take back all the rain you gave away. Couldn't blame him. How could he stay when things were that way? Take away the pain.
Check out this home and studio recording magazine dated June 1985. The journalist wrote, "Another British tour followed, with Kiki's single How Glad I Am The band and Kiki, now tired and beginning to get fed up with the sight of each other, decided to call it a day. Joe Partridge was quoted in the article saying, "Kiki is the best female singer in this country, and it's a mystery to me why she hasn't done more. I still believe she will from time to time." 1975 was a strange touring year for the Kiki Dee Band and their previous year momentum. A brief 10-date UK tour was played in February 1975 with special guest Sailor, celebrating the success of their 1974 hit Traffic Jam. I'm not sure what to think about their music. I think it sounds more like Love Beach than ELP themselves. The Kiki Dee Band's last concert commitment was a March 1975 Paris theater show, which was recorded by the BBC, but according to online sources, it remains unreleased. The world needs this album to see the light of day. While touring was off the table, recording sessions resumed in autumn 1975 for Cage the Songbird, with 11 cuts including Once a Fool, which was released as a single in December, next to Someone to Me from I've Got the Music in Me. Now, was the new album released? Well, no. It was shelved for 33 years until EMI put it out in 2008. This, of course, brings many questions I have no answers for. We can only speculate on the reasons. I will need another video to talk about the songs here, but I will just say you can check it out on Spotify. You can definitely feel the pressure to follow up on I've Got the Music in Me, as the arrangements are somewhat directionless. Don't get me wrong, Kiki is at the top of her game, but I sense turmoil and tension in these sessions, which makes this album something like It's Only Rock and Roll after Goat Head Soup. Kiki Dee didn't go on tour for the remaining months of 1975. Elton John began session work for his 11th studio album, Blue Moves, in March 1976, just as Led Zeppelin was releasing Presence. It was during this period that Kiki got the call to record a song by the name of Don't Go Breaking My Heart. While Elton's parts were captured in Toronto, Canada, Kiki Dee's vocals were done separate at Marquee Studios London, with engineer Phil Dunn and producer Gus Dudgeon supervising the whole operation. Musician personnel included Kiki Dee's band owner Roger Pope on drums. Technically speaking, Don't Go Breaking My Heart is a part of Blue Moves, but it was never released on a studio album per se. The song blew up and became an international success, which got Kiki Dee back on the road April through September as Elton John's guest on many concerts, where she would usually play both the new song and I've Got the Music in Me. Kiki Dee came back to England to play September 18, 1976 date supporting for Queen at Hyde Park. Her 6-track setlist included 2 cuts from I Got the Music in Me and of course Don't Go Breaking My Heart. Quite the comeback for her it was, and this led to a small UK tour, including a special birthplace show for Kiki at St. George's Hall, Bradford, where she was joined with a surprise guest appearance by Elton John in what seemed to be full circle, back at being known for a hit single as opposed to an album.
I had a very pleasant surprise this evening. Somebody turned up out of the blue, very unexpectedly, to sing a duet with me. I think you'll all be very happy to know. Okay, so Elton John.
Back where it all started for her, one of Britain's best female singers, hustling in the music business next to a man who, just like her father, who drove her to London for an audition in 1963, believed in her. Kiki Dee went on to record 2 more albums for the Rocket Record Company before going separate ways in 1981. Fun fact, Don't Go Breaking My Heart won the Ira Novello Award in 1977 for Best Pop Song. The same ceremony saw Led Zeppelin win a special award for outstanding contributions to British music. I know there was a lot of information on this episode, but I hope it sparks your interest on her 1974 release while enjoying the great emotional depth of her material that a terrific band made a timeless classic. She may be Elton John's sister for some, or Kiki Dee the solo artist. Both perspectives are valid. One thing's for sure, she's got the music within. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.